Very early on we made reference to the descriptive of YITRO as the Kohen Midian, for which there were two options. One, a secular definition to Kohen as head of government, the other a religious definition, that YITRO was the high priest of the country. And while it might be argued that the first definition dovetails nicely into the narrative, in that informs us of a positive aspect of YITRO, the second descriptive is somewhat problematic. YITRO as the father-in-law of Moshe is a statement of fact. It is neutral, neither negative or positive, whereas YITRO, one who is heavily involved in idolatry, adds nothing to the narrative, and furthermore, as we noted earlier, given the statement in Gemara Baba Batra and Pesachim, that unless there's a reason to do so, Torah does not highlight negative points about animals, let alone human beings. What justification is there for the second option, the descriptive that YITRO was an idol worshipper? We then moved into fine-tuning the definition of Avodah Zarah, namely the application of a state of divinity, godliness, to those creations that are mere intermediaries through which God interacts with Olam Hazeh, this world. We then broadened the definition of Avodah Zarah not just to physical entities but also to spiritual entities. In other words, ascribing to the Malachim of Yetzirah, or the Neshamot of Bria, and for that matter the Midot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a degree of divinity to the point that they could be treated as independent beings from God. What the Rebbe suggests is that YITRO had mastered the deepest levels of spirituality. He was no worshipper of physical objects. From the standpoint of monotheism, however, his mistake was he attributed to these spiritual forces a degree of divinity worthy of worship. The descriptive Kohen Midian now becomes a positive quality in that he became the quintessential Baal Tshuva in his rejection of Avodah Zarah, even at the most spiritual levels, to state that Ata Yadati, now I know, Ki God Hashem Mikol HaElohim. Elohim in this case is small g, spiritual forces through which God interacts with man, and the recognition that these forces, as spiritual as they may be, are mere tools to facilitate that interaction. In part 2 of this series, we will use that information to understand, firstly, the statement in the Gemara Sanhedrin that Gnaihu l'moshel v'shishim ribui shelo amru baruch ad sheba YITRO v'amar baruch Hashem, that there was somewhat of an embarrassment to Moshe and the entire nation, that it was not they, but YITRO, who offered Baruch Hashem acknowledgement in their salvation from Egypt. Not YITRO the idol worshipper, but YITRO who had mastered the deepest level of spirituality. Similarly, the Zoharic statement, and as with all Zoharic type statements, we have concepts that need to be placed and understood from the standpoint of Sod, that it was only after the arrival of YITRO that Matan Torah, the ultimate goal for Yetziat Mitzrayim, could take place. Once again, not YITRO the idol worshipper, but YITRO the spiritual giant who had mastered the highest levels of spirituality, one who was able to convert absolute klipa into absolute kedusha. This reflected in the statement of YITRO, Ata Yadati, now I know, Ki Gadol Hashem Mikol HaElohim, that God stands above and is by implication creator of all spiritual forces.